cpphomeworkhelp.com. For any homework-related queries, call us at +1 678 648 4277. You can mail us at info@homeworkhelp.com or reach us at https://www.cpphomeworkhelp.com. Problems. Problem 1. Explain the output of the following code without running it. Struct data, float z. Char type, int main, data d1 equals 20p. Coot d1.z plus d1.type endl, data d2, d2.type equals d1.type, d2.z equals 4 asterisk d1.z, coot plus d2.z d2.type endl, coot d1.z d1.type, return 0. cpphomeworkhelp.com. Problem 2. Debug the following program. Include the entire fully functional program as your answer. Class member, int member number equals 25, float member pay, public void input, CIN member number member pay, void output, int main. Member MEM, CIN MEM dot member number MEM dot member pay, coot MEM dot member number \t MEM dot member pay, void output member. Coot MEM dot member number \t. cpphomeworkhelp.com. Problem 3. 1. Define a class account to indicate bank accounts with the following specifications. Data members in private visibility mode. Remember that the default visibility mode is private. The count number, long integer, 2. Name of the depositor, string object, 3. Type of account, character type value which stores either S for saving and C for checking, 4. Balance amount, double. Member functions in public. V. To input the value of all data members based on values inputted by the user. 6. To deposit money, the function should take an argument called amount to deposit, increment the current balance amount by this value, and return the new balance. cpphomeworkhelp.com. 7. To withdraw money from the account. It should do what the previous case did with a similar argument named amount to withdraw. However, before doing the withdrawal, it should make sure that the balance after withdrawing will not drop below $500. It should return the amount actually withdrawn, 0 if no money was withdrawn. 8. To return the balance amount. 9. To print all the data members. 2. Write a function which takes two account objects as arguments and sets the data members of these objects based on values inputted by the user. The object in the first argument should retain these values after the function is called, but the object in the second argument should not. Remember that since this function will not be a member of the class, it only has public access to the class members. 3. Write another function which again takes two objects as arguments, compares their balance amount, using the function you defined in question 1b.8, and returns that object whose balance amount is greater. Define the function such that modifying the account object returned will modify the original object passed as an argument. cpphomeworkhelp.com. Problem 4. Classes can also have arrays data members inside them. For instance, if we have an array A of size 3 as a data member of the class employee we discussed about in lecture, an object of the class emp1 will have three subvariables, namely emp1.a, 0, emp2.a, 1, emp3.a, 2, similar to the regular subvariables emp1, id, emp1.name, etc. Define a class school student with the following specifications. You may assume every student has 8 grades. 1. Data members in private visibility mode. A. Student ID, of type long integer. B. Student name, of type string. C. Average, of type float. D. Grades, an array of type double. 2. Member function in private visibility mode. If a member function is defined in private visibility mode, then it can only be accessed by other member functions inside the class but not by the objects of the class. CPPHomeworkHelp.com. A. Calculate average, that returns the average of the student's grades. 3. Member functions in public. A. Assign, that asks the user to input the ID, name and grades and sets the average equal to the value returned after calling the calculate function. B. Output, that outputs all of the data onto the screen. Problem 5. An array of class objects works the same way as a normal array. For example, if we declare an array of objects of the class employee discussed in lecture, employee EMP 10, employee EMP 10, each element of the array will be an object. I.EEMP 0, EMP 1, and EMP 2 are all employee objects, or instances of the employee class. If we wish to call the input function for object EMP 1, the syntax will be just as in the case of a normal object EMP1 input. In classes, data members are usually made private. If you want to allow outside users of the class to see or modify these values, the class usually should make sure this happens on the class's own terms. It doesn't want any. CPPHomeworkHelp.com. Other code making its internal data inconsistent, say, a school student's average being set to a number not reflective of the grades. To selectively allow access, classes often have getter and setter functions. For example, to allow users of the employee class to retrieve and modify the employee ID, we might define class employee int get ID, return ID, void set ID, int new ID, ID equals new ID. The names of these functions are usually of the form getSomeVariable or setSomeVariable. In the class defined in the previous question, add a getter function in public visibility mode to return the percentage of a student. Write a program to declare an array of objects of class school student and perform the following using separate global functions, i.e. non-member functions, for each. Use dynamic memory allocation to allow the user to decide how many students are in the array. CPPHomeworkHelp.com. 1. Assigning values to all the elements of the array, calling the assign function for each of the objects. 2. Sorting the array of class objects on the basis of average using bubble sort method. You will have to call your average getter in the if statement of the sort. 3. Displaying the array elements, you will have to call the output function for each object. Problem 6. 1. Write a rectangle class that has as data members two arrays of doubles, one for x coordinates and the other for y coordinates. The class should have an init function that inputs these coordinates from the user. We will see a more elegant way to initialize in the next lecture. 2. Write a rectDrawing class that has as a data member an array of rectangles. Create an init function that allocates a new array of rectangles of a size entered by the user and allows the user to initialize each rectangle. What problem will occur if a rectDrawing is initialized more than once? Assuming you had some well-implemented has-been initialized member. CPPHomeworkHelp.com. Function, and you were adding the code below to the init function of rectDrawing, what would you have to put in the blank line below to solve this problem? If has been initialized, // insert your code here. 4. Show, in one line, how you would allocate a new rectDrawing class using the new operator, assuming you wanted to be able to refer to the new object later. CPPHomeworkHelp.com. Solution 1. 1. The program first defines a structure data containing two variables z, of type float, and type, of data type char. 2. In